Hello, 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 and welcome back to the channel, my friend.
Hey, so glad you are here with us today.
I am Anna, and this is going to be a really good one.
I am Abel, and honestly, I needed this conversation myself.
Today, we are talking about something so close to my heart.
Me too. Something real, something human.
We are talking about not giving up on yourself,
Yes, not giving up, even when it feels really hard.
especially when it feels hard, right?
Exactly, especially then.
So, if you have ever looked at yourself and thought, maybe this is just too difficult for me, this conversation is for you.
100%. Stick with us, okay? This one matters.
It really does. So, Abel, let us just jump right in because I feel like this topic is something people dance around a lot. They read the motivational quote on a coffee cup, they see the poster on the wall, but nobody really sits down and honestly talks about what it actually feels like to want to give up on yourself and what it means to choose not to.
Oh, you are so right, Anna. And honestly, you just described my week. Like, I am not even joking. This past week, I was trying to build a new morning routine. Nothing crazy, just waking up 30 minutes earlier, doing a little bit of light movement, and reading something meaningful before I grabbed my phone. Simple, right? Very doable on paper. And the first day, brilliant. The second day, okay, still going. Third day, I slept right through my alarm, completely. And when I finally opened my eyes and saw the time, that familiar voice came rushing back in, that quiet, heavy voice that said, "See, you always do this. You always start strong and then fall apart. Just give up."
Oh, I know that voice so well.
Right? It's almost like it was waiting there the whole time, sitting in the corner just patiently waiting for me to slip even a little bit so it could come running.
That is such a perfect way to describe it. And what's interesting to me is that the slip itself was so small. One morning, just one. And yet the internal reaction felt enormous. It felt like the evidence of something much bigger and much more permanent about who you are as a person.
That's exactly it. And I think that's the trap, is it not? We take one moment, one stumble, one bad morning, or one awkward sentence, or one failed attempt at something, and we turn it into a story, a very final, very convincing story that says, this is just how I am, this is my limit, and I crossed it today.
Yes, and the story feels so true in that moment. It's not like you're making it up or being dramatic. It genuinely feels like the evidence is right there in front of you. But here's the thing I keep coming back to. A baby does not think that way. A toddler who is learning to walk doesn't take 3 wobbly little steps, fall flat on the ground, look up at the ceiling, and decide, right, walking is clearly not for me. I'm just not a walker. I was never built for this. Time to give it up and crawl forever.
Oh, that image is so funny, but it's also so perfectly true. Can you imagine a tiny little baby lying on the floor going, nope, this is not happening for me. Walking was not in my cards.
It's ridiculous when you picture it with a baby, is it not? But that's almost exactly what we do to ourselves as adults. We fall once, we stumble once, and we treat it like the final closing verdict on our potential.
And I think what makes it even harder is that we're watching everyone else around us, and they seem to be walking perfectly. Nobody ever posts the falls, do they? You see the beautiful morning routine video online, and it looks seamless and golden and easy. You don't see the 17 failed alarm attempts that happened before that one perfect morning was filmed.
That's such a good point, Abel. Nobody broadcasts the stumble. We only see the polished, finished version of other people's journeys. So we compare our messy, honest middle to their shiny highlight reel. And of course we feel behind. Of course we feel like we're failing.
Exactly. And that feeling of being behind everyone else, that's a really specific kind of pain, is it not? It's not just feeling bad about yourself in general. It's this very particular ache of thinking, everyone else figured this out, and I'm still back here, still struggling with the same things, still making the same mistakes.
I completely agree. And you know, when I think about that feeling of being behind, there's another analogy that really helps me. I think about driving. Have you ever been driving somewhere, maybe somewhere new that you haven't been before, and you take a wrong turn?
Oh, all the time. More times than I would like to admit, honestly.
Right. And in that moment, what does your GPS do? Does it go silent? Does it sigh heavily and say, well, that's it, you've ruined the journey, we're done here. You should have paid attention.
No, it just says recalculating, just like that. So calm, so matter of fact. Not a single ounce of judgment. It just looks at where you actually are, not where you were supposed to be, and it starts building a new path from that exact spot.
Yes, from that exact spot. Not from where you started, not from where you were supposed to be by now, from exactly where you are standing in this moment. And that is such a powerful reframe because I think so often when we stumble, we feel like we have to go back to the beginning, like the stumble wiped out all the progress, like we have to start the whole journey from zero again.
Oh, that really resonates with me. That is exactly the feeling. Like I missed one morning of my routine and suddenly it felt like I had to earn the right to try again from the very beginning, like I'd lost all credibility with myself.
And you had not. You had absolutely not. You were still in the same place on the map. A little off the original path, yes, but still moving, still capable of reaching the destination. The GPS does not cancel the journey because of one wrong turn. It just quietly, calmly, without any drama, figures out the next best step from right where you are.
That is so comforting to think about. And I love it because it is not telling you to pretend the wrong turn did not happen. You still took the wrong turn. That is real. That is true. But it is saying the wrong turn does not define where you end up. It's just one part of the route. And there is always another way to get there.
Exactly. The journey is still valid. You're still going somewhere real. The route just looks a little different from what you originally planned, and that is okay.
And you know what else I think about a lot, Anna? This idea of how we talk to ourselves in those hard moments. Because the language we use inside our own heads is so powerful. And a lot of us, myself absolutely included, we talk to ourselves with this enormous, heavy, absolute language. I cannot do this. I always fail. I will never get better. I'm just not good enough.
Those words, those big, final, closed door words, they carry so much weight, do they not? And what I find so interesting is that if a friend came to you and said those words about themselves, you would never just nod and agree. You would push back. You would say something kind, something encouraging. You would offer them a different way to see it.
Right. We are always so much more patient with other people than we are with ourselves. And the words we choose really do shape how we feel. Like there is something I've been thinking about a lot lately. This one small, tiny, almost invisible word that changes everything. And that word is yet.
Oh, yes, yet. That little word is doing so much heavy lifting.
Right? Like think about the difference between saying, I cannot speak confidently versus saying, I cannot speak confidently yet. The first version is a wall. It's a closed door. It's the end of the story. But the second version, it's still honest. You're not pretending you are already confident. You're not performing a happiness you don't feel. But you are leaving a door open. You're saying, this is where I am right now. And where I am right now is not where I will always be.
That is beautiful, and it's such a small shift, but it genuinely changes the energy of the whole thought. I cannot do this yet tells your brain that the story is still being written. It tells you that right now is a chapter, not the conclusion. And that matters so much because your brain takes its cues from the language you feed it.
Absolutely. And I think this connects to something I hear a lot from people who are learning English, or really any skill that feels vulnerable, which is this fear of sounding wrong, this fear of getting it incorrect. Like I've spoken to so many people who say, I understand so much more than I can say. I know what I want to communicate, but the moment I open my mouth, I freeze because I'm terrified of making a mistake.
Yes, and that fear is so understandable. It comes from somewhere real. It often comes from years of being corrected in a classroom setting, where every wrong answer was circled in red and handed back to you as a kind of evidence of where you fell short. And that leaves a mark. That stays with you.
It does. It really does. But here's the thing that I have to keep reminding myself, and honestly, that I think we all need to hear more often. Real life is not a classroom exam. Real-life conversations do not come with a strict, silent teacher hiding behind the sofa with a red pen waiting to pounce on every grammatical error or accent variation.
Oh, I love that image. A teacher behind the sofa, just crouched there, red pen ready, judging your word order.
Yes, exactly. And the thing is, in real life, when you're talking with someone, they're not sitting there mentally tallying up your errors. They're listening for your meaning. They're trying to understand what you're sharing with them. And if the meaning comes through, if they understand what you're trying to say, then the conversation is working. It's doing its job.
That is so true. And I think this is something that gets lost in how we often think about language learning. We place so much focus on perfection, on getting everything exactly right, on having the flawless accent or the perfectly structured sentence. But communication is not about perfection. Communication is about connection. It's about two people reaching each other across the space between them.
Yes, connection over perfection. I love that. And this makes me think about something else. We sometimes overcomplicate the way we try to express ourselves, especially when we're nervous or under pressure. We think that to sound intelligent or capable, we need to use the most complex vocabulary, the longest sentences, the most impressive phrasing. But honestly, some of the clearest, most powerful communication I've ever heard has been incredibly simple.
Oh, this is so good. Say more about that.
Well, think about a really sharp, clean kitchen knife. A good knife doesn't need to be heavy and complicated and covered in extra attachments to do its job. It just needs to be sharp and clear and precise. And a simple, clear sentence works exactly the same way. I feel nervous right now. I don't understand that part yet. Can you say that again, please? These are not impressive sentences. They're not fancy, but they are incredibly sharp. They cut right through to the meaning. They get the job done. And there's no fog, no confusion, no barrier between what you're feeling and what you're saying.
That is such a beautiful way to think about it. The clean knife. Simple is not weak. Simple is focused. Simple is honest. And honestly, when you strip away all the complicated layers that we sometimes put around what we are trying to say, what is left is usually something much more genuine and much more connecting than any perfectly crafted complex sentence would have been.
Exactly. And I think that is where so much of the anxiety comes from, right? We are trying to dress up our words before we send them out into the world. We are trying to make them look impressive enough, polished enough, worthy enough. But all of that dressing up takes time and energy, and often by the time we have finished worrying about how to say it, the moment is already past.
Mm-hmm. The moment has passed, and with it, maybe a connection that could have been really meaningful. And I think that is the real cost of letting the fear of imperfection keep us silent. It's not just that we do not practice the language, it's that we miss the actual human moments that the language was meant to create.
And those human moments are everything, are they not? That is what it is all for. Not for the grammar test, not for the certificate on the wall, but for the real, warm, messy, imperfect moments of being understood by another person and understanding them back.
Yes, and so when I think about giving up on yourself, I think about giving up on those moments. Every time you go quiet when you had something to say, every time you chose not to try because the fear of getting it wrong was bigger than the hope of getting it right, that is a moment of connection that slips away. And you deserved that moment. You deserved to be in it.
That is so powerfully put, Anna. And I think it connects back to what we were saying at the beginning about that internal voice that rushes in when you stumble. Because the voice is not trying to protect you from embarrassment, even though it claims to be. What the voice is actually doing is keeping you small, keeping you in a space that feels safe, but is actually just very limited.
Yes, the comfort zone. And I say this with so much gentleness because I know how genuinely comforting it feels in there. I do. The comfort zone is comfortable for a reason. It is familiar, it is known, it's the place where you do not risk anything and therefore you do not lose anything, but you also do not gain anything. You do not grow. You do not discover anything new about what you are capable of.
Right, and growth is uncomfortable. I don't think anyone should pretend otherwise. It is genuinely uncomfortable to try something that you're not yet good at. It's genuinely uncomfortable to open your mouth and not be completely sure the right words are going to come out. It's genuinely uncomfortable to keep going after you've already stumbled once or twice or 10 times.
It is, and that discomfort is real. I never want to minimize that, but I think there's a really important distinction between discomfort and danger. Discomfort says, this is new, this is stretching me, this feels uncertain. Danger says, stop, turn back, this will hurt you. And so often, our nervous system cannot tell the difference. It treats the discomfort of trying something unfamiliar with the same alarm bells it would use for an actual threat.
Oh, that distinction really hits home. Because yes, the feeling in your chest when you're about to try something difficult, it feels a lot like fear. Your heart beats faster, your thoughts race, your palms might get a little bit damp, and your brain reads all of those signals and says, danger, pull back. But really, it's just growth knocking on the door. It's just your potential saying, hey, there's more of me here if you are willing to come a little further.
Yes, growth knocking on the door. I love that image. And the door doesn't open on its own. You have to reach for the handle. You have to make the choice to open it, even when your hand is shaking a little.
And that's the thing about confidence, is it not? I used to think, okay, once I feel confident enough, then I will try. Once I feel ready enough, then I will speak. Once I've practiced enough alone, then I will go out there and use it for real. But confidence does not come first. It never does. It's not some gift that arrives before the work begins.
No, it's not. Confidence is built from the doing. It's built from the trying, from the stumbling, from the getting back up, from the trying again. Every time you take a step, even a small, shaky, uncertain step, you are building something real. You are building evidence for yourself. Not evidence that you are perfect, but evidence that you are capable of continuing.
That is such a crucial difference. Evidence of capability, not evidence of perfection, because perfection is not achievable, and chasing it just keeps you frozen. But capability grows with every single attempt, even the failed attempts, even the wrong turns, even the mornings you sleep through your alarm.
Even those, especially those perhaps, because those are the moments where you get to find out something really important about yourself. You get to find out whether you are the kind of person who stays down after the fall, or whether you are the kind of person who chooses to get back up. And here is what I believe with everything in me. You are always, always the second kind of person.
I believe that too. And I want to say something directly to anyone listening right now who is in a hard moment with themselves, who is maybe in the middle of that familiar feeling of, I am behind, I am not good enough, I should just stop trying. You have not failed. You are just mid-step. You are in the part of the walk where you have not quite landed your foot yet, but you are still moving.
Still moving. And movement, even the slowest, most uncertain, most imperfect movement, is not failure. It is the very definition of trying. And trying is everything. Trying is how every single thing that matters in this world gets done, not through perfect execution on the first attempt, but through persistent, patient, gentle, honest trying.
And I think that word, gentle, is so important here. We talked about being kind to others when they come to us struggling, and I want to encourage every single listener today to practice that same gentleness with yourself, not as a way of excusing effort, not as a way of lowering your standards, but as a way of making it genuinely possible to keep going. Because if you are cruel to yourself every time you fall short, eventually you will run out of the energy to try again. But if you treat yourself the way you would treat a friend, you stay in the game. You find your way back to the path.
Yes, you stay in the game. And being in the game is everything. Because the people who end up where they most want to be are not necessarily the people who had the smoothest start or the fewest stumbles. They are the ones who decided again and again, even on the hard days, that they were worth staying in the game for.
That is it. That is really it. You are worth staying in the game for. That is the whole message, is it not? Not that the journey will be easy, not that the stumbles will stop, not that the doubt will never come back, but that you, as a person, as a learner, as a human being in the middle of your own beautiful, complicated story, are worth continuing to show up for.
Yes, and I want to leave you with one final thought, something I come back to whenever I feel that pull toward giving up on myself or giving up on something that matters to me. Confidence does not come before the step. Confidence does not arrive like a package at your door before you start the journey. Confidence comes from taking the step. Confidence is built inside the doing, inside the trying, inside the showing up, even when you feel uncertain and unprepared and a little bit afraid.
And even when your voice shakes a little.
Especially when your voice shakes a little, because that shake, that is not weakness, that is courage. That is what real courage actually sounds like. Not a perfectly steady, flawless voice that never trembles, but a voice that chooses to speak anyway. A voice that says, I am not fully ready, but I am here and I am going to try.
I think that is the most honest and the most beautiful definition of not giving up on yourself that I have ever heard. It is not about being fearless. It is about being here, being present, choosing to stay in the conversation with your own potential, even when it gets uncomfortable and uncertain.
And you can do that. I believe that so fully, not because your path will be perfect, but because you have already chosen to be here in this conversation, learning, growing, trying. And that choice, that says everything about who you are.
It really does. Thank you for spending this time with us today. It means more than you know.
Thank you. We'll see you in the next one, and until then, be patient with yourself, be kind to yourself, and please, please do not give up on yourself.
You've got this. We genuinely believe that.